All right. Yeah, here we are. We're live today. All right. Welcome again, guys. Another market update here for you today. This one's a little bit different, so we wanted to get to you a little bit sooner here. Normally, we've been doing these every Friday or so. We wanted to kind of expand on this one a little bit for you. Today, I'm joined by Mark McKenna again as our co-host, and we also have Dan Maier is our special guest. Dan is from Appraisal Links. Dan is it works for an appraisal management company. I'll let him explain what that is in a second, and we'll just kind of get things rocking and rolling. So, Mark, thanks for being here again. Dan,
thanks for having us, Jeff. And I wanted to tell you that real quick, the response we've been getting after the broadcasts have been phenomenal, and you're doing a great job on it. So keep it up.
Appreciate it. Absolutely. Thanks. Dan, why don't you give us a little bit of background on what you do with Appraisal Links so that people can get an idea of the questions they may have and how they can participate here today.
Okay. Basically, what we do at Appraisal Links is we manage the appraisals for FHA and conventional orders for certain clients, certain lenders in the area. So basically what they do is when they purchase a house, they assign or they place an order with us, and then we find a local appraiser in the area to appraise the property, and we manage that process. It usually is about a week to 2 week process, and basically we have various appraisers that are specialized in that area, and basically we just manage the appraisal process of the mortgage, total mortgage process for certain lenders.
That's great. No, and you guys do a great job for us, and always there to help us out throughout the entire process. And these are different times, so we kind of thought last week we had an attorney on, and we kind of thought this opportunity was opportunity for us to talk about the different pieces of the process that are changing with the pandemic. So I'm sure, Mark, you're seeing a lot of appraisers coming through your property as you're selling them. So what's it looking like?
It's different, and I my question to Dan is, what's the process post-COVID compared to pre-COVID? What's the big difference there?
During this era of COVID, basically Fannie Mae and FHA have given some flexibilities through their appraisal process. That includes not going into the property and getting an appraisal on a desktop or an exterior only appraisal. That way there's nobody is going inside a house and getting, jeopardizing their health. So basically the difference is before you had appraiser had to go into a property. Right now during the pandemic, they don't have to go on purchase business. They don't have to go into the property. They can use exterior only and get the information off the MLS.
And that would be for conventional and FHA?
That's correct. Conventional purchases and FHA purchases, they do have the appraisal flexibilities in place at the moment.
So FHA appraisers are still calling for repairs on exterior items, just like normal, correct?
Correct. If they can see any repairs needed at the time of the inspection from the street, then they're going to call for it. If they don't see anything, then they're going to put an assumption into the appraisal saying that per the visual inspection from the street, there didn't seem to be any repairs. Now, if you have any repairs on the MLS, then he's going to call for them repairs on the MLS. So that's what he's going to gather his information as much as possible to understand what the value and the condition of the property is.
Okay.
Interesting. How's that holding up with you guys? You guys have the same amount of appraisers that have been working, or has it been busier, less less projects? I mean, I've seen some on our refis. We're getting property inspection waivers where they're not even requiring appraisals at all. So how's that affecting you guys, and how's that affecting the process?
I've heard there's an increase in appraisal waivers, and that was talked about by Fannie and Freddie and FHA regarding to make sure they get through this pandemic. We do see a little bit of a slowdown. I don't think it was so much of a slowdown. We didn't see the peak, the spring market peak like we usually do. So the volume coming in is basically October volume compared to, usually our spring volume. You definitely see, that's the peak of the season or of the year. So we haven't seen that peak, but we are steadily busy still. We're definitely not slow, but we are, a nice constant busy right now.
So it's funny because when we ran numbers, I ran Marlton, Medford, Mount Laurel, Morristown, Cherry Hill, Medford Lake. There was actually last March there was 357 pendings. This March there was 363 pendings, which I was blown away that we had more pendings than we had probably. Was it about 28% less inventory get listed in March this year compared to last year? So,
I think a lot of it is, New Jersey should take a little bit of advantage. My slowdown has my slowdown has drastically been affected in Pennsylvania with their state laws and stuff like that. So, maybe I do see a little bit of an increase in New Jersey, and that's because people are trying to get out of the house basically, and hopefully they're social distancing. I don't know, but maybe it gives them an excuse to get out of the house and go look at houses. Hopefully they're wearing masks and stuff like that. But but definitely Pennsylvania has slowed down drought. I mean, it's probably like a 70% dip in volume.
Well, Jeff and I have talked about this, and I think, and I've seen it. You're going to see a lot of people that the city is probably not going to be where they want to be now when the suburbs are going to look more attractive. I mean, I couldn't imagine being trapped in, quarantined in a house with myself, my wife, and my 3 kids. That was 1,400 square foot with no backyard.
Right.
Where you come out to South Jersey, $500,000 gets you, a 4,000 square foot house on an acre, and you can run everybody around and not feel like you're trapped. So
yes,
I think, and you're also, what I think we're going to see is we're going to see that North Jersey buyer come down here more often, because like Jeff and I had talked about, with technology like this, it's going to be easier to work from home. So
Mark, that's a good question too. I forgot to bring this up. One of my clients had reached out after one of our previous calls and actually had asked, what do you see, and are you seeing it where there's still an influx of people coming down from New York and coming down here to work and still obviously they're not working in New York right now, but you know what I mean, actually migrating down here, but still commuting to North Jersey or to the New York Metro?
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised. That Greyhound bus on exit 4 is packed every morning, and they're not working up there 5 days a week. They're up there 3 days a week, 2 days out of their house, and as business travel is going to slow up with more and more technology, I think that people are going to look for the less expensive homes, and South Jersey's a bargain. It always has been. And hopefully that will change.
But cool.
I think you're going to see a big influx in South Jersey. I think a lot of New York companies, New Jersey companies, are going to realize that they don't have to have the bricks, and the physical locations. And a lot of people are going to be working from home. So you want to go to that suburb house in South Jersey where you can get a big bang for your buck and then have an office in your house. So I think that you're going to see a lot of changes in the next year or two about this pandemic, of how people run businesses and stuff like that. Maybe they don't need a 3,000 square foot physical location. Maybe they go for 1,000, foot, and have people, like Mark said, work from home a lot more days than normal.
Yeah, and real quick, I wanted to mention, guys, we are streaming this across Facebook, YouTube. We actually got it up on Instagram today. And the comments actually do post over here now, so we can actually take them if anybody has any questions they want to ask Dan, specifically about the appraisal process, or anybody wants to ask about buying or selling. Obviously, Mark's here, or mortgages, I'm here. Feel free to put your comments in the box and post them over. We'll be happy to go through them for you. And we'll have a couple other questions coming up for another agent of ours. They'll be coming on in a minute as well. But Dan, what about the one of the appraisers that that I know had said that he's doing a lot of where the homeowner is actually taking pictures for them of the interior. Is that that's an acceptable method right now?
That's an acceptable method. It's called a visual inspection. It's called a visual tour or visual inspection. Is that way if the appraisal requirements do not require on a purchase, they don't require somebody going inside the house. That's what I was talking to you about, the desktop or the exterior only. If the appraisal flexibility is in play on that particular house, then yes, a visual inspection is allowed. What I tell borrowers to do if the appraiser is going to do an exterior only, just make sure they take some good shots of what improvements in the house they did. So therefore, the big multiplier or the big question is what's the condition of the house. So yes, on visuals, visual inspections are allowed as long as they don't require a full appraisal, like a cash out refi requires an interior inspection. So that's not in play then.
Okay. Or renovation loans too, right? They renovation loans, so 203K or a home style, they still
thank you. Yes. Yep.
Okay. Cool.
So Dan, with inventory shrinking up in our South Jersey market, I'm starting to see prices increase a little bit in certain ranges. My 250 to 400 is really hot right now. I mean, I had a property last week. First week we had 17 showings on it in the first couple of days, and we got like 3 or 4 offers. It was priced where it should have been. So my question is, sometimes an appraisal will come in low. How likely, if you have proper data, is it to overturn an appraisal? Is that based on the independent appraiser, or it's just that's a question that I have because the majority, 99% of the appraisals are done right. They're done well. Every once in a while, you'll get something that just doesn't make sense, and I just don't understand it. So, that's something. Do you see appraisers if they miss something? Because I almost feel like you don't want to insult them and say, "Hey, you screwed this up." Can you help me out a little on that?
Yeah, especially in South Jersey, where we that's our backyard, so we have a great relationship with multiple appraisers in a certain area. So there is some flexibility, and they're human. They make mistakes sometimes, or they overlook stuff. So if you have a appraisal where it just doesn't make sense, that's where you get Jeff involved, and then Jeff will call me, and we can discuss it, and then we have some flexibility. I'll talk to the appraiser, see where he's coming from on his analysis, and then we can take it from there. But I do see sometimes where appraisers do definitely make some corrections and stuff like that. So.
Sure, there's even a little bit more flexibility nowadays with this whole thing, right? I mean, they can. There's going to be some where they're just not 100% on point. I mean, it's more difficult, right?
Yeah, especially if they just did an exterior only appraisal. What I would tell Jeff to do is get me some interior photos, get me a comp, and then I'll talk to the appraiser and have a discussion with the appraiser saying, hey, this condition of the house has been upgraded. Here are the list of the upgrades, and then we can give a good fight.
Cool.
So I have another question for you because I always struggle with this. On a nice pool in a house that someone puts in that they just spent $60,000 on their pool and they love it, and I always tell people that, and it's price point specific. A pool can average in value between $8,000 to max $15,000. Is that correct? Yeah,
that's about right, especially in South Jersey. Yeah, I was going to say $10,000 basically.
All right. So for all those idiots like myself and Jeff who put the pool in, exactly $90,000. Enjoy it. Open it up in February and close it in December.
It's like a car. Once you put it in, the depreciation goes right down. Yeah. So yeah, you're not going to get dollar for dollar for a pool. I see a lot of people put, a bay window in, and they pays $4,000, and they expect, well, a bay window is a bay window. You're not going to get, pennies on the dollar.
Dan, actually, that brings up a good point. I have one of my a very good friend of mine, Missy Giannetto, who's with another local real estate company, Compass, and she actually, that was one of the questions that she had. We were talking yesterday. Missy, I wanted to bring you on. Thanks for being here today.
Guys, thanks for having me, Jeff. Thanks, Mark.
Yep. So Dan, actually, Missy and I were talking yesterday, and that was a question that she actually had, which prompted us to have her come on with us today. Missy, you want to kind of ask that question we talked about with the different types of repairs?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Dan. I have a question. My question I feel like is helpful to the consumer. So a lot of sellers, when they want to prepare their house for the market, they want to do different projects. And, they're always asking for guidance on what makes it worth it for me to do, and what would be a waste of my money. So what are some projects that you think are a good idea for homeowners to do where they could maybe see some good return on their investment?
The best return on their investments in a house would be your two major rooms, and that'd be your kitchen and your bathrooms. Basically, your bathrooms, if you want to upgrade your bathroom, you're going to get pretty much a lot of dollar for dollar income, appreciation when you do the upgrades, and especially your kitchen. So I would say if you want to concentrate on two rooms in your house to get your house prepared, I would say, upgrading your bathroom and your kitchens, maybe resurfacing the cabinets, maybe appliances and stuff like that.
Okay.
So those are the two, best money for your return is those two rooms.
And what kind of value? A lot of times I think we hear people say, I want to finish my basement. What kind of value do you get with a finished basement?
You're going to get probably about $10,000 to finish your basement. Of basically a adjustment on the appraisal. So if you put $40,000 or $30,000, you gotta make sure that you're not over improving. But basically, if you do a nice finished basement, it's about $10,000 value wise.
So the ROI is really not there for that type of investment. Another one of those things.
I go crazy with it, but you can do probably a basement for what, $20,000, $30,000, basically, depending on how big it is.
Right.
That's bare bones. That's bare bones.
Right. Yeah.
You drop stone, electric. If you have a sports bar in your basement, it's a little different story.
Nice.
So what is? They're great questions. What's the worst thing that you think you can do besides a pool that we just hit on? That you hear a lot. Like, is it molding? Is it landscaping? What's the worst thing that you could really pour money into?
I would say upgrade it in hardwoods. You go for you can go for the medium hardwoods. When you get into the high end hardwoods, appraiser's not going to be able to tell off the pictures. So hardwood, spending an extra $1,000 or $2,000 on hardwoods, molding. Just a bay window or windows. Going for the high end windows compared to the medium grade windows. A window's a window when an appraiser looks at it and stuff like that. So I wouldn't tell people to go too crazy on, improving, it just depends on, what they're looking for. Landscaping is another one where, you can deck out landscaping, but you're not really going to get the value out of it and stuff like that. So, one of the biggest things I like to tell people is the basements, like putting bedrooms in basements. Going from a 3-bedroom to quote a 5-bedroom, that doesn't really count. Anything below grade doesn't really count dollar for dollar.
Gotcha.
Even if you have an egress?
Not really. It doesn't really matter. It just depends on how much of a steep slope you're on and stuff like that. So a basement's a basement, when it comes to appraisals.
So Missy, I don't know if you've seen this problem, but then I'm going to put you on the spot again. I've been struggling with solar panels. Okay. And everybody has a different view. You know, I think if you own solar panels and you bought it outright, it gives you some value. But these lease deals and these PPAs, because these solar companies, and I have friends that I hope you don't jump down my throat, you know, they talk about how much value solar brings to it. I wanted to hear it from you on what you say.
Leased solar panels give no value to the properties because they're rented, they're leased, they're not really owned, so they give no value. And that's one of the questions an underwriter will ask every time, you know, once they see solar panels. Solar panels, if you own them,
I
they bring a lot of value to them. No, it's basically I will say that you can add that to the list of lease money of, you know, ROI on your money, solar panels, because energy source is an energy source, and you know that's the way you look at appraisals. Now you might get 1,000 or two, but you know, as a bump on a line item, but really you don't get the value out of solar panels. Like, you know, you get it on the monthly, you know, energy bill
savings.
That's where your return is.
Yeah. Why have you had a different opinion, different outcomes, Mark?
Well, you know, it's tough to when you have these discussions when you're pricing a property and they just spent $45,000. They bought solar panels 3 years ago,
right,
and their utility bill is like $4, and they get some SRECs, and they really want to see it in their price. And I agree with Dan, and I think that the PPAs and the lease deal are a big problem. I've lost transactions because the consumer, when they get the solar panels, didn't sign a good contract.
right.
And you'll see people walk away from deals like that sometimes. You know, if you purchase them and you're getting SRECs and you got a nice low cost in your electric, great thing. But again, it's not going to turn your property from 400 to 440.
Right.
So.
And I think you have to just keep in mind too that you might be limiting your buyer pool a little bit, because there's plenty of people that don't want to deal with solar panels at all. So there may be a lot about your house that you love, that they love, but if they're not interested, they're not interested. So then you're kind of shutting the door to some consumers.
Absolutely. Yeah, my wife won't let me put them on my house, so she doesn't like the look of them. So I get it for sure. What other kind of questions do you guys think that the general public might have for Dan here while we got him, talking about the appraisal process and what it's like in today's world? Anything?
So Dan, I was also wondering, when we sit with clients to try to work through pricing, we've touched on the comps a little bit here in this conversation. What do you think are some of the key variables that we should really be focusing when we're trying to compare the house we're about to list to, try to figure out what the market value should be? What should some of those top things that we should really be looking at and explaining to our sellers?
It's the conditions of the house. A lot of people just look at a house and that's sold, down, in their development, and it's sold for $450. But the house could have been a reno. The house could be majorly updated. But all the consumer sees is the $450 sale price, and then they also, since it's in my neighborhood, that my house is worth $450. Basically, the big swing factor is the condition of the house, and that's where I get into the updated kitchens and your updated bathrooms, and just and then go down from there and stuff like that. So it's the amenities that each house has that a lot of consumers don't put that into their basically when they're trying to price out their house compared to their comps out in the area. So their house could be 1,000 square feet, and the house down the street sold is 1,500 square feet, but they think they get the same price. So basically, it's the amenities and the condition of the house.
Okay.
That's a major difference.
So I have a question with the comps. How far back will an appraiser go you know, will they go back? Is it 4 months, 6 months? What's the max if your inventory, if you don't have a lot of inventory to look at?
The general rule is 6 months, okay, and you know, but if they're struggling with comps, they'll explain that in the appraisal why they went back a year or so. And a lot of times, an underwriter will give them the flexibility if they're struggling with comps. Now, you know, they can't go back a year, and if they have comps most recently, so you know, look at your most recent comps, and you know, you can take it from there. But general rule is 6 months, and they can go back to a year if they're struggling with comps and just to justify the appraised value.
Well, like you said, there's inventory shortage markets. It's difficult. I know that we've seen a couple come through recently. Some of the higher priced properties where we've gotten comps they're pretty far away. I've seen some down the shore areas that have, you know, outside 20 miles because they're so unique. And then they've also gone back almost a year. So I've definitely seen those as well. So ultimately the underwriter makes the decision as to, you know, what they have, but they, you know, try to use that 6 months as their rule of thumb. So, right. I mean, that makes sense.
Right. So, cool. You know, if you're sitting in a rancher or a split level and you don't have any of those type of properties, they can go back further. Like Missy said, one of the conditions is if somebody's sitting in a split level, don't compare your house to a colonial. Colonial's, you know, the top of the heap when it comes to property styles and stuff like that. So appraisers like to use the same style of houses to do comparables.
Cool. All right, guys. Any other type of questions?
I have a quick question I get from sellers all the time. So I always get like someone say, hey, my neighbor's going to lose their house. I want to get my house up before a foreclosure hits. So it's usually, I tell them not to worry. You know, what percentage of your area or your neighborhood starts to become a concern if you have foreclosures? Is it 20%, 10%, 25%? Because, you know, we went through that in that 13, 14, 15. It was pretty drastic, and now, you know, you don't see them as much, but there, you know, once in a while you'll see a foreclosure or short. You know, does that have any bearing if there's one or two where you have 15, 20 sales?
No, you don't really have any bearing on it if it's one or two. That's where the agent's got to explain when the appraiser comes out to the property, or you know, explain what happened on that situation. So if you had a fire sale of a property, make sure he knows that, and make sure that he doesn't count that. He won't count that since it was a fire sale. So it's not a really good indication of you know, the area. You know, only because it was a fire sale could be due to a divorce or foreclosure or some other circumstance. If it's not prevalent in the area, which is about 20% or above, you know, then he won't discount that, or he'll make a big adjustment to take that into effect. But appraisers don't like to use fire sale appraisals. But you know, have the agents make sure that, you know, they explain why that's coming in, so you know, they had a sale for so low.
Gotcha.
You know, be proactive instead of reactive.
Gotcha.
How about the
well, the problem is you
problems? What?
Good.
No, good.
You can't talk to the appraiser anymore because they won't let you meet him at the house. You got to get him on the phone and say, hey, when you do your count.
Right.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah. So you need to be proactive on the phone when you set it up.
Yeah. Or proactive when he goes through the house and stuff like that.
That's a good point. That's a good point. What are you seeing, Dan, as far as what are you seeing as far as like turn times go? I mean, I haven't seen anything really hurt us. Like, I mean, COVID obviously is here, and it's you know, things are elongated in general, but I haven't really seen it affect anything on our purchase contracts as far as timing wise. Are you seeing elongated turn times on the appraisals, or are things pretty much staying you know, the same?
We did see a extension in the beginning of April when it first happened, because nobody knew. Basically, we were getting so many different stories of how to do it and what form to go on and stuff like that. So you did have a push, a little extension for purchase business until everybody got comfortable of what form to use and how to do it and all that kind of stuff. So now we're back down to about back down to about a week and a half,
Okay.
maybe 2 weeks and stuff like that. So it's everything's getting done pretty much in a week and a half. Yeah.
So it's not, it hasn't added too much time. It's not gonna. Let's put it this way: if Mark or Missy or if somebody sends us a contract and we put everything in, we're still able to get our deal done in 30 days based upon the fact our appraisers can get to these deals almost as quickly as they used to be able to.
Correct, and if there is a time crunch, usually if it's a purchase business and it's a time crunch, that's where they'll opt to doing a desktop where they don't have to go out and inspect the property, and they'll use the interior photos from the MLS listing and stuff like that. So if there is a time crunch, they can be flexible and get it done for us. So that way we're not pushing back closing.
Got it. Are you seeing a lot more desktops than
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Or, why jeopardize your health if going on to interior when basically the interior photos are right at your fingertips? So I do see a lot of desktops coming through at this moment. So.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool. Good to
So
know.
when you're doing your listings, make sure that you're pointing out the good features of the property. That's being proactive.
Yeah, that's good.
Cool.
I always say, besides pricing, photography is your next most important thing that these
100%.
agencies do. So if any reason, make sure your photography is good. Make sure you have your 30 to 40 pictures in there instead of one photo, because that can come back and bite you if you got to do a desktop right there.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, if you do see a difference in square footage, since they're not going into the properties, if you see a difference in square footage for some reason, you can always throw up a picture of the floor plan into your MLS listing. That way the appraiser can see what's going on and get the square footage off of that. So if is there any discrepancy with the floor plans compared to tax records or something like that, be sure to throw a floor plan on your MLS, so that way he can grab it from there too if he's not going into the house.
Good idea.
Good.
Yeah. Smart. Okay. Good. Any other, tips for us, before we wrap up here, Dan, on things that, homeowners can do to, to protect themselves, things that, that you're, that would help the process out, anything at all that you want to let us know about?
Yeah, if your properties are occupied, I'll talk about a little bit about purchase business. If the house is occupied, do yourself a favor. Everybody's a favor during this pandemic is we ask the borrowers or occupants to leave the property 15 minutes before the appraiser is there. Open up the windows, open up the doors, let some air in the house, and therefore, the appraiser are told to sanitize beforehand. Wear a mask during the inspection, not to kind of touch anything in the house. They don't have to touch anything in the house, so just make it easy. Have the doors open, the bedroom doors open, so therefore he's not touching anything. He'll be in the house, measure the house, get some pictures. Usually like 20 minutes. So all we ask is the occupants to get out of the house, stay in the driveway for 15 minutes beforehand, and go from there during this pandemic. So. Final inspections, if you have any final inspections that you're dealing with that have repairs. Right now, Fannie, Freddie, and FHA has allowed a borrower certification letter and with pictures saying that the repair is done. So therefore, the appraiser is not going back out to the house. So that's a good thing with FHA and, especially. So as long as you need that borrower certification letter, though.
Got it. Perfect.
Good advice.
Yeah, but okay, cool. Yeah, great advice. I really appreciate it. Definitely helps out. I think a lot of the buyers and sellers you guys are talking to are probably be happy to hear some of these things that Dan's giving us good insight on today. Missy, you got any last questions or anything before we wrap up?
I think the last question I just wanted to touch on, Dan, is can you just briefly explain the difference when you're going in to look at a house for a conventional loan versus an FHA loan? What are some of those differences that you're looking at, in particular, like repairs that homeowners need to consider?
Yes, the biggest thing that I see that if you're signing a FHA contract is, and the appraiser's going in, is the peeling paint. Utilities have to be on compared to conventional. Basically, those are the two major repairs that I see is in the handrails going up and down the stairs. If it's more than 3 feet, you're going to need, per FHA, you're going to need a handrail. So basically, those are the top three things that I see the difference between conventional and FHA. FHA is the peeling paint. Utilities must be on, and the handrails with
Yep.
Going from like your main floor down to the basement, you have to have a handrail, people.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Good, thanks.
Cool. Thank you very much. Well, Missy, appreciate you. How about you, Mark? Any last questions here for Dan?
No, I think you did a great job answering, all the questions. And I think the one thing that people need to take out of this is everyone has adapted to what's happening. It's business as usual. We're closing deals in 30 days. Houses are selling, and it's actually it's probably one of the best times that I've seen to put your house up for sale in my 29-year career. Low inventory and low interest rates. So in a million years, I thought I'd say that when this first thing started, but it seems housing is quite the necessity, and people need new housing. So that's all good.
Yeah.
Take advantage of Pennsylvania being locked down right now, and your market should be kind of really busy. Since Philadelphia market is kind of
we feel bad.
Yes, we do feel bad for them.
Yeah.
They should be considered essential, and they're not. And that's a whole nother conversation. I'm sure we could go on.
So we won't go there. But
I had a call.
Take advantage of
call my sales staff.
What did you say, Mark?
I said I had a call at my sales staff right before this, and I'm like, we are so fortunate that we are allowed to go out and sell. I mean, we're blessed that you can go out. I mean, we're being, again, when Jeff and I have talked about this every week from week one when it started, we're taking precautions. Like Dan said, we're wearing gloves, wearing masks. Hand sanitizer. I spilled my hand sanitizer in my car and I ruined my front seat. I mean, it's just, and the buyers are being concerned and your sellers are smart and they're leaving the lights on. So we're doing all the right things, but we are very, very fortunate in South Jersey that we're allowed to do that, and it's I feel bad for those guys out there.
Yeah.
So
no doubt. Well, and look, like you said, you got to be very smart about it and embrace what's going on right now. Like you said, the market is still busy. People still got to buy. People still got to sell. People got to move. It's just the way it goes. So we got to adapt, and that's the reason for these events, to talk about it, to talk about the things that we can do to let people know that things go on and you don't have to worry about it. You take precautions and we move on. So as always, appreciate everybody for being on board. Mark, again, thank you. Missy, thanks for jumping on and asking some great questions. And Dan, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I know you even double booked us. You're supposed to be on another podcast at this point, but we appreciate it. It means the world to get some professional opinions in here. So thank you so much. And we'll be doing this again soon.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.